Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Meadless and this is Literally Graphic, and today we are highlighting a graphic novel entitled The 500 Years of Resistance comic book by one Gord Hill, published in 2010 by Arsenal Pulp Press. It stands ambitious, 80 pages thick. As far as warnings go, this is a short and a somewhat abrupt coverage of the most brutal acts of violence across the so-called Americas by colonizing forces against Indigenous people. There is violence, both implied and shown, as well as some nudity. Gord Hill is a member of the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation, pronunciation linked below, of what we currently refer to as the Pacific Northwest. He also IDs as an anarchist and an artist, and he subsequently published the Anti-Capitalist Resistance comic book, which I have also read, and recently the Antifa comic book, 100 Years of Fascism and Antifa Movement, which is still on my TBR. A summarization of the outline of the book is as follows. Part 1 is the 1492 invasion. Part 2 is resistance, which outlines the following acts of resistance. The Inca insurgency from 1500s to Tupac Amaru 1780. The unconquered Mapuche. The Mapuche of southern Chile resisted the Spanish for 3 centuries and were never conquered. They still resist Chile today. 1680 Pueblo Revolt, Pontiac, 1763 Rebellion and the Royal Proclamation, Seminole Wars in Florida. Seminole and escaped African slaves fought the wars against U.S. colonial forces. Apache, guerrillas of the Southwest. War on the plains, war on the coast. No justice on stolen land. Part 3 covers assimilation. Part 4 is renewed resistance. 68 rebellion. Wounded Knee 73. The Oka Crisis. Zapatistas. 1995 standoff at Chapatan. And Stoney Point 1995. Gord Hill spent 2 years unearthing images and researching historical information to create the 500 Years of Resistance comic book, which presents the story of Aboriginal resistance in a far-reaching format. With strong, plain language and evocative illustrations, the 500 Years of Resistance comic book documents the fighting spirit and ongoing resistance of Indigenous peoples through 500 years of genocide, massacres, torture, rape, displacement, assimilation, a necessary antidote to the conventional history of the Americas. Includes an introduction by activist Ward Churchill, leader of the American Indian movement in Colorado and a prolific writer on Indigenous resistance issues. The flow of this collection of events is good, with every point flowing well into the next one, expanding on the theory of the title, which is the extended resistance of the Indigenous peoples of the so-called Americas to colonizing forces to the modern day, standing in contrast to the, quote, dead Indian myth. Taking off my checkboxes for each of my reviews, I don't recall there being any discussion of sexuality, gender, ability versus disability, or class. Rather unsurprisingly, not a critique, just an observation. This is another review that I put off for a long time due to anxiety, so sorry if I missed anything obvious. Rather than dealing with any issues of race, I would say this book dealt with groups of racialized people. I am not aware of how Gord Hill feels about this, but I would recommend checking out one Kim Tallbear, who I believe is currently located at the Indigenous Science, Technology, and Society Research and Teaching Hub at the University of Alberta. Her contributions to the Media Indigenous podcast have helped me, among other things, to not think about indigeneity in terms of, quote, blood quantum. Although that does sound like a cool movie to watch, but rather citizenship. She is also the author of a book entitled Native American DNA, Tribal Belonging, and the False Promise of Genetic Science, which has been turned into an audiobook, and I should get to ASAP. But back to the book at hand. It's a really great way to dive into the history of Indigenous resistance on Turtle Island. There's a recommended reading list, and some of the chapters have been adapted into short animated film segments through a partnership between Sub Media and Gord Hill a couple of years ago. Links below. Bye y'all, keep reading, and resist white supremacy. And as always, Literally Graphic is recorded on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation. I live here because of British colonization, Indigenous genocide, and more geographically specific, Treaty 13. also known as the Toronto Purchase, which was finalized in 1805 between representatives of the Crown and certain Mississauga peoples. This treaty was a lie and has since been broken many times over. Saying so reflects only my own small steps towards knowing the truth and does nothing for reconciliation.